So you're going through a spiritual awakening and life is taking friends away from you and it's leaving you a little bit isolated. It's kind of a scary time, right? Because for most of us, perhaps we've never really experienced this before. And we're going to talk about this in this video. And in doing so, I'm going to pose 3 really important questions for us to unpack so that I can download almost a decade's worth of yogic experience into you in 10 minutes or less. So let's have a look at those questions. Number 1, why does life take my friends away from me on this path? Number 2, how long does this phase last? And finally, number 3, does this mean that I won't ever have friends again? And frankly, am I just going to become a total loser and a loner and have to move to a Himalayan cave? Well, we'll see about that. But before we dive into the more meaty subjects and answer these questions, let's speak to where you may find yourself at your path currently. You're probably questioning in your mind, does life or God genuinely hate me? Am I being punished? All I really want to feel is connected to people and to life, and right now, life seems to be taking everything away from me. Frankly, I'm scared. See, the mind really will make up incredible stories, won't it? And they're all extremely negative, but they feel so valid. But where did our love for life go? I think really all that life is actually asking of us is to become curious again. What if this isn't a negative experience at all? What if this is actually the biggest blessing in disguise? And besides, if they were really friends, would they have actually left you? So let's pose our first question. Why does life take my friends away from me on this path? Have you ever stopped to question what a real friend actually is? This seems so obvious, right? But most of our friends or friendships, well, they're actually created unconsciously. We fall into them because either we hang out with these people at work or at school, and maybe we meet them somewhere along the way. But if we're really honest with ourselves, what we're calling friendship, well, most of the time it's just familiarity. We've become so comfortable with these people because they've been in our lives for such a long time that it would be really weird if they weren't in it, right? So what does it mean to be a true friend? Is a friend somebody that you can do stupid things with and get away with it? Is a friend somebody who will tolerate your BS? Is a friend someone who's not strong enough to tell you the truth about yourself or about themselves because they're so insecure that the best thing they can offer you is people pleasing? So you never really know where you stand with them or with life. Well, maybe I got a little bit carried away with that one there, but I'm not sure any of these things represent friendship. I think a true friend will hold you to account or call you out when you're doing something stupid or out of alignment. But then that begs the question, are you really ready for a friendship like that? Now, our automatic response might be, yes, Jamie, of course I'm ready for a friendship like that. But to really know the answer to this question, we actually have to look quite deeply at our behavior. We may say that we want a friend like this or that we're ready for that, but my behavior might actually say that I always want or need to be right. I always need to win arguments, or every time somebody challenges me, I see that as a threat to my existence and I have to fight them. Maybe I have trust issues and so I find it difficult to connect more deeply and therefore I self-sabotage relationships. See, all of these behaviors are in direct opposition to having a friend like this in our life. And even if we found one and convinced them to stick around, we would just push them away. So let's flip the script and ask, is life taking friends away from you? Or is life taking away people that you no longer resonate with fully anymore? Because you're growing. It's so important to be honest with ourselves on this path, isn't it? Otherwise, we can drive ourselves genuinely crazy. Because a lot of the time, we've been outgrowing these relationships. And frankly, we're just clinging on because we're scared to be alone. And so in life, taking them away will of course make way for the new. But to get to the new, we must let go of the old way of relating to people and to friendships. And to do that, the only way out is in. And what you're moving into and through is that fear of being alone. And if you're looking for some comfort, I can guarantee to you that you'll come out the other side of this stronger and with the ability to make much deeper connections in your life. Begs the question, how long is this phase gonna last? After an awakening experience that changed my life in an instant, I then came crashing back down to earth and entered what we would typically call a dark night of the soul experience. Now, it's natural, right? If you get blasted to the top of the mountain, you must come back down again. And boy, did I come crashing back down again. And as the ego, or the mind, started creeping back into my daily life, I would become even more depressed, repressed, sad, lonely, and isolated. And then to top it off, my friends started disappearing too, and I was left to question, what on earth is going on? But luckily by this point in my path, I knew that the only way out was in. And so I would knuckle down with my sadhana. Now, sadhana is your daily spiritual practice to bring about the highest aliveness and intensity of energy in your system. And if you want some access to some free sadhana, you can download our app, Undercover Yogi, available on all of the app stores, and it's totally free. Now, I must have been doing 2 or 3 sessions of sadhana every single day just to try and understand what on earth was going on and to try and bring back some normalcy to my life. But the deeper I got into my path, the more people would disappear, and I was left alone questioning, where has everybody gone? I literally spent 2 whole years on my own with no new connections, just me, my sadhana, and maybe a few too many bottles of port to numb the pain. Now, I don't recommend drinking and doing your practices, but I would be a total hypocrite if I didn't admit that that's what I did, because the pain was frankly unbearable at times. But luckily, in time, I found a community of like-minded souls, what we would call in our tradition a sangha. And this was exactly what I needed, because after an experience like that, you become so isolated and you can't talk to people about it because you just know that they aren't going to understand. They haven't experienced it. And if you're honest, you don't really want to get locked up in some psych ward because somebody's misunderstood your experience. But if you want to join a thriving community of people who are willing to do the work and will do the work to grow consciously with you, then you can apply for our Freedom Blueprint training program down below. Listen, I'll level with you. I don't know how long this phase will last for you, but what I do know is that doing this path together with people that you know, like, and trust can make it a very exciting possibility rather than something that's just lonely and isolated and where you just feel like you're going crazy most of the time. But if I'm honest, I think this phase will last about as long as you let it. If you aren't taking responsibility and doing what you know to work, whichever practice is, then of course you may never leave this phase. Now, I was lucky to find a teacher who would crack the whip, and so my path seemed to be accelerated in this way. But I'm not special. I just did my sadhana, and this is for sure the quickest way, because there are no shortcuts. Nothing worthwhile in this life is easy. So does this mean I won't ever have friends again, and am I just going to become a total loser and a loner and have to move to a Himalayan cave for the rest of my life? Well, your avoidance patterns may make this harder for you than it really needs to be. Whilst it's true, life gives us the grace of space and a little bit of isolation so that we can address these wonky areas inside of ourselves in the way that we're relating to people, to life, and to things. And yes, it's true that whilst in this phase, we do have to address all of these fear-based beliefs that we have about life. See, I always feared I would have to become a monk and just become this total loser. You can see where my mind and my judgments were at that time. And I actually did become a monk, so that fear was totally real and totally valid. However, it wasn't against my choice. I actually wanted to do that. And I'll tell you the story of how I accidentally became a monk in a future video. But for now, just know this life is never forcing anything upon you against your will. What you perceive of now as the worst thing possible may actually make you really happy, and you may well be excited to do that later on down the line. For what it's worth, I would advise, take it or leave it, to do what excites you, right? To live in alignment with that highest excitement inside of yourself. But to do that, you've really got to understand what your true north is, which really means if it's not a fuck yes, it's a no. So does this mean you won't ever have friends again? No. But will your friendships and the way that you relate to people change dramatically? Yes, they will. And will this be the biggest blessing of your life? Yeah, the real challenge will come when you start feeling like you're ready to reintegrate with life and start making new, more aligned friends. At this point, will your social anxiety lead you into avoidance patterns where you stay at home in a hermit phase for longer than you need to, just because you're scared to be truly who you know yourself to be in life. Become so frightened, don't we, to show that version of ourselves, the truer, more authentic version of ourselves that we work to become. But in truth, until you're truly willing to do that and be that, you may find people to hang around with, but you'll still feel lonely inside. Now, we're always being guided, we're being given signs, and we try to listen to that deeper communication that's coming from within to let us know what's right, what's wrong, what the next steps are for my life. But if we're honest, this can create such a mental confusion, almost like a mental fog, if we don't know how to communicate with our higher self correctly. So in this video here, we show you the signs that your higher self is finally trying to communicate with you, so that you know what guidance to trust and when to trust it. And you can watch that one right there.